Welcome to Behind the Business. I'm Faheem Sabja, and on every episode, we go beyond the business plans and discover the real life and untold stories of today's entrepreneurs. It's time for the people behind the business. Let's get into it. So you're in Toronto. It's the middle of the pandemic. Everything is closed.
Yeah.
And you're like, let me move to Austin, Texas and start a burger chain. No. How did that happen? How did that actually start? Put yourself in that spot again.
So basically during the pandemic, I was working corporate.
Yeah.
And I was already in the process of, I was going to leave 100%. And there was a breakfast chain that approached me and said, hey, we're a franchise, we're looking to grow. And they weren't doing territory rights at the time. They wanted, because they're new, franchisees, you don't know how they will work out.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'm only joining if I get territory rights. To me, I felt like that was the only way it would be beneficial for me. So got the territory rights and we started working on it, got the first location in Welland. And that's closer to in between Niagara and Toronto.
Yeah.
And we're just about to start construction. And during that whole process, I just felt like that the brand's direction and their leadership wasn't what I wanted to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I got an offer. One of the other potential franchisees came in. He said, hey, can I buy your rights? I really like this. And so I said, okay. And during that same time, we've had conversations. So I have an uncle here in Austin, and he's been here for the last 35 years, does real estate. And since 2018, he's been saying he's wanting to dabble into the restaurant side. He just doesn't have, the expertise or someone. And right then he had a project coming up in Pflugerville, just north of Austin. And as we were selling and transferring the rights to that new person for breakfast, this came on, it clicked. And at that moment, that's one of those moments where you feel like, should I say yes? But then I also thought the reverse. I said, if I say no, at some point I will say, what if I had done that?
Yeah, that regret.
That exactly. Yeah. So that's why I said, why not? I'm not married. Yeah. Don't have those kind of responsibilities that will tie you down.
Yeah.
I came down, checked it out, and one thing led to another, and now we got Buddha Burger started.
So I tried it. Awesome. So good. It's just not about the burger, but I gotta say it was awesome.
Yeah.
It's interesting because often one thing that stops people from becoming entrepreneurs is the fear, right? And we talk about this often, right? The fear of not knowing what's the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, one thing that helped me make that jump or get over that fear was am I gonna regret this?
Yeah.
If I don't try it now?
Yes.
Is that something that you felt? You're like, okay, if I don't take this on now, I'm gonna regret it later.
For sure. At some point, and I felt, even though everyone's like, oh, you're so young, and I've always had that because the restaurant industry is a little different. It's dominated by an older generation. Yeah. They don't really pave the way for younger talent to come in.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what is one of the issues in that industry. So I've always been the youngest, but I felt that no, these are my prime years. Yeah. This is when I am able to take that risk. I don't want to be at a point in 40s and 50s, which is still not too late.
It's fine. Yeah.
But I felt like this was the right time. And I've always wanted to say, yeah, I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's always been there, that I don't want to have that regret of not trying.
Right. If we ever it was with the Niagara breakfast train project too.
That one was interesting. That one, so we my family we were the first franchisee at Mucho Burrito, which is like the Chipotle of Canada.
Yeah.
And so there was what do they call it? District area, this franchisee guys.
Sure.
So he approached me because he was also doing this brand. And he said, it's young brand, young CEO wants to, grow this. And that was something I said, okay, I'm tired of just continuing to work corporate.
Yeah.
Even though I learned a lot. But actually, you know what? I'll tell you, I don't know if I was tired. I was more so just really ready to just do my own thing.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, and you know this very well, Toronto was so reluctant to even open up
Oh my God. I
dining.
know.
And so because of that, I said, okay, let me at least start with this.
Yeah.
And then I can do my own thing after that.
Yeah.
So
It's funny. Like I'm so proud of being from Toronto.
yeah.
And it's awesome living here in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so crazy to me to see somebody who would make that jump, right? To
Yeah.
not only from like moving, that's one thing, that's a big jump in itself. But then being like, I'm gonna move and I'm gonna start something brand new, right?
Yeah.
That's why I thought your story was super inspiring. It's cool to hear about your family background too, right? Because I think a lot of people choose to go into entrepreneurship, and a lot of it is figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
It's along the way, and that's every day. But you had this like background. You said you were born beside the restaurant. What was
So I'm born in Bombay.
okay?
And the way it works is, so we have a restaurant in, it's called Lonavala. It's a hill station. It's like a touristy spot. Usually everybody goes there during the monsoons or on the weekends. So a very small town in the mountains. And so we have our restaurant, and attached to the restaurant is where we lived. So yeah, that's been my childhood. For the first, it was 4 years, 5 years before we moved to North America.
Got it.
So we've throughout my whole life, actually, when I sat down once, I said, when my dad or my mom or so, we've always done restaurants.
You're born
somewhere.
Literally born for this. Clearly.
That's what I say, convincing myself every day in the morning. I'm like, I'm born for this.
Did you ever think that restaurants, the food game, was not going to be a route? Like I think we had talked about when you were in school, and they were like, I've had enough of the food world, and you want to do something else.
Yeah, even today I feel like I should go into Bollywood.
Yeah, it's doable. It's possible.
Oh no, man!
It's a formal audition for a show.
That's how it should be, right? So, I went to business school, studied real estate and finance, wanted to do investment banking. And I guess that was sort of the regular job, the investment banking route.
Yeah.
I wanted to play hockey for the longest time.
way,
So when I first came to Canada, I was like 11 because we actually lived in Texas when we first left India.
I didn't know that.
We were in Dallas for a few years. We were in Austin for a year. Before we made that move to Toronto.
Got it.
And yeah, as soon as I got to Toronto, this is the first time I've seen hockey. It was amazing. It was life-changing. And I went as high as playing under 21 AAA.
Way.
Yeah. And then got an offer at Babson College, D3 NCAA.
Crazy.
But yeah, I just decided the tuition and everything was way too high. So I said, we'll stick to staying in Toronto. But I really wanted to play hockey at one point in my life. Then, through university, the investment bank route, and I'd say about third or fourth year, where I felt, I don't want to do this. This is not something I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any direction at that point either, though. That is it going to be the restaurant industry? Is it going to be the food industry?
Mm-hmm.
I did not. Until I actually got into it and just started working within, we had the restaurants at the time. And the one thing I've realized is just take things as you go. That's what I've done. I mean, you try to plan so much ahead, and one small change in the middle and the whole route is different now.
Yeah. Is that how like the day-to-day works at Whataburger now too? We're all at night. We'll figure it out as it comes,
That's pretty much it. I gotta stop doing that though. I gotta stop doing that because at some point you want to have. I have main goals. There's certain things I put into my mind. Like for this year, I said we're getting the second location. No matter what it is, we're getting the second location up.
Nice.
And so we did.
Nice.
But yeah, I guess restaurant industry is just day to day. Something new, something different happens. You get a curveball. You wake up, you're like, I'm going to get these tasks done. And you step into that kitchen and it's the whirlwind that you get caught into.
Oh my God.
And then the next time you get time is, we're closing 10 p.m. Okay, now you're going home and now you're starting to work on everything.
Oh my goodness.
So It's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people out there, restaurant industry, they've done it and they're like, I will never do it again. Not if you paid me $1 million.
Yeah, food and beverage is hard, man. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's funny. I love the social media game that Buddha Burger has. It's hilarious, but for me, it's just so real.
Yes.
You know, it's not about, okay, here's our product and here's what we can, serve and come into the store. It's so different. Like I really liked, there was two that I really liked. The first one was a CEO walks in the door and what you think the CEO expects, and people are handing the CEO, everything, meeting agendas, the coffee. But in reality, you walk in the door and it's, you're holding 10 bags and trying to make it through, and that's the CEO reality, right?
I think if you see one of the comments that's there, it's one of our customers, and they go, "I've actually seen him walk in with it." It's true. It's true. I think part of it is I don't want to make that second trip to the car.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what it is. It's a lot of people, oh, you get to make your own hours. Yeah, well, you do, and your hours end up being a lot worse than a corporate. Exactly, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You're working on the Christmases, the Thanksgivings, the New Year's. But and that's why I feel like it's very important you enjoy it.
Mm.
Because if you don't, then it's gonna feel like that's the other regret that, oh, why did I do this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of people glorify like the entrepreneurship route.
Yeah, they do. They do.
And I think what's dangerous is not expecting it and then realizing that, oh my God, I have so much more to do than what I thought a entrepreneur, CEO, founder would have to do.
Yeah, and it's nice that we're talking about this, because one of the CEOs, and when I worked corporate, I would tell I had interactions with the CEO, and we would talk about investments and just random things, and I would tell him, oh, look, this guy, he's invested here, or he's done this, and he's been so successful here, maybe we should look at these companies. And he said, you know what, Raaziq, I'll tell you one thing. People will always talk about their wins, never about their losses. Yeah. And I said, that's true too. So I feel like, when you said glorifying the entrepreneurship, I feel like people were just looking at the wins. Mm. But the losses, there's a lot more. Yeah. Just to get those few wins. Yeah. And that's really important to look at.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I appreciate, like, I know it's a Buddha Burger Instagram page, but it's nice to see that you're showing the other side of it as well. Yeah. And people get to relate to you and the brand more, in my opinion, right? And because you're not showing the just the wins. You're showing, like, in reality what it is.
This is what happens.
There's another one that I really liked was trying not to get angry in the kitchen. It's so funny to me, because I'm like, if this is your brand, you're building this and you want it to be perfect. Yeah. How is that actually how it goes? Or you're like, I don't want to blow up, but I need this to be perfect. Like, what's that like in the kitchen?
I feel I've changed. I've changed over the years. If we were having this conversation maybe 8 years ago, 9 years ago, like right then and there, I would just be like, no, what are you doing? You lose your fuse. I feel I've become more patient, more understanding. I let a lot of things go. Yeah. I figure out that, the old saying, you can't win all the battles, just choose your battles wisely. And then that's actually what I do in the kitchen. So I make sure that food quality, customer experience, food hygiene, those things are non-negotiable. For sure. Certain small things that, hey, I asked you to clean this before you leave. You didn't clean it. Okay. I'm not gonna, next time you come in, I'll talk to you nicely. I'll explain, hey, you should have done this. It's changed the demographic of the workers in this industry has changed. Their mindset has changed. It doesn't work. That's why you see all the old school restaurateurs. They're not. You can't run kitchens the same way.
Yeah. It's like so much of it. I think in every industry, but especially in yours, is like people.
Yes.
Right. So like staff, how you treat your customers, like how you treat your landlord, how you treat the vendors. Yeah. Where the food comes from. Like there's a person behind that. Like, what's your approach on people? Because I think
it's very easy to get annoyed and frustrated and not have people you like that you work with. But
Yes.
how do you deal with that?
I feel I've been blessed
Yeah.
with this brand. I've been blessed. Vendor wise, I've got one of the aces that's in Austin.
Nice.
He actually does another really popular burger chain within Austin. So a lot of knowledge.
Mhm.
That's actually a funny story. You know, I was going with a different company for a vendor, and this vendor's regional manager had come in and said, "Give us a shot. You know, just have a conversation with us." And so, because he was so senior as a salesperson, this account was actually supposed to be handed off to a new person.
Mm-hmm.
But the conversation I came with, and I found this out after, he told he told his regional that this new person is not going to be able to handle him. He needs somebody with experience, because I really wanted someone, and that's what I'm used to, right? Going back to the Toronto, people know their stuff there.
Yeah.
You know, the food scene is completely different there. I mean, I feel like Austin still has some time to get to that. People know their stuff in Toronto.
Yeah.
So vendors wise, just had a lot of support, family. You know, my uncle's here, my aunt is here.
Yeah.
Staff wise, my approach has been very, very different.
Mhm.
Very different. I focus a lot on their personal development, and I tell them on first thing in the interview, I say, "Hey, listen, I know you're not going to be here forever.
Mm-hmm.
But while you're here, why don't you actually learn something, learn life skills
Mm-hmm.
that you can actually use wherever it is you want to go. You want to be a police officer, a lawyer, accountant." And to them, that's really different, because there's not a lot of people who do that. There's not a lot of people who will work. I work individually with each employee. I'll be like, what is it that you want to learn? What is it that you want to work on? You know, I had the craziest thing. Last year, I'd say about 9 or 10 months, I had 2 part-timer rotations. That's it. And that's unheard of in the restaurant industry. I had a solid, you know, it was 9 or 10 months where I didn't have anybody leave. Everyone was there. And it was the most chill and coasting I've done in terms of, otherwise we're always hiring, always firing in this industry.
That's like Nirvana.
That's that's exactly it. That's Nirvana.
Nirvana sauce. Killer, man. Try to use it. I think that's really important, because a lot of folks, I would assume, in the restaurant industry, take a staffing approach that's transactional, right?
Yes.
That isn't based off of growing. And I hope that that's like where, regardless of the industry, whether it's restaurants or others, like most managers, most leaders take their business. But it's not true. Like I think even in corporate life, you probably would have experienced that that's not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a perfect medium that you want to achieve as well.
Yeah.
I feel that you get too close to the staff, and you know, it starts becoming too casual, and that starts affecting the brand, which is the main goal. But yeah, I feel like right now I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot working, you know, owning our own restaurants or for other franchises, working corporate,
Yeah.
and then after working corporate, starting to do my own thing, and it's like it's been and just not even being blessed with the people that you work with, but even the experiences you have. I think that shapes an entrepreneur as to what makes them successful.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody else recently who said that like the entrepreneurial journey isn't linear. Like it isn't a straight line this way. It isn't even a hockey stick. Right?
Yeah.
It's like a complete roller coaster.
Yes.
Right. You had mentioned to me that like there are some nights where you're just like, did I make the right decision? Like, did I do this the right way? Like, what's been like the lowest point?
Lowest point. I think there's been 2 different low points and 2 different emotions. I think the beginning of the first location, I guess just because we were delayed for a year, just because of the landlord's construction.
Yeah.
And that got very frustrating.
Yeah.
And I'm someone who Like I have to do something all the time. And so to sit there, and that was very frustrating. There was a lot of anger coming out, especially when we were setting up and just having to do everything myself. Because I came from, hey, I know what has to be done, but I've got a whole team that's always doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, well, you got to do the photography. You're doing the food scenes, like the food shots. You're doing everything, the menu development, the POS setup. So that was that took a strain on me, but that was fun too. Because it was just executing.
Yeah.
I'd say the second point was a little more where I told you that I sat down and I said, I'm scratching my head. I'm going, well, am I going in the wrong direction? And I feel like that was after the second one opened up. So that was pretty recent.
Oh man.
Where I was going crazy between both of them.
Yeah.
And just having the staff understand that, hey, this is how things need to operate.
Yeah.
I can't always be there to hold your hand.
Right.
So, but again, that roller coaster, and I always have the belief that if today's the bottom, then the bottom's the bottom. It will always come back up. Might not be the best day tomorrow, but it'll be a little better than yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what allows me to go back in. For me, going back into the kitchen really helps. Really, really helps to be able, because I get into this because I enjoy serving customers. When that customer comes back and goes, and we had it recently at the trailer, my supervisor called me and goes, a customer came in, they said, it's the best hamburger I've had in my life.
No way.
And so when you hear that, and when customers actually come back, and I know in the first location, we're in a gas station. So for them to actually come back and say, damn, that was one of the best burgers I've had in a very long time.
Yeah.
That makes me feel good.
Right.
And that gives me that little ignition that, okay, this is why you're
There's
doing
something
it.
here. Like there's something here to keep going back to.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's not easy to find that. I think a lot of folks struggle with figuring out, like, okay, I'm at the bottom, but like, how do I get myself out of it?
Yeah.
And it's nice to hear you say that, because like I'm sure in the moment when you're like, this is the bottom, the last thing you're thinking about is like, well, a customer's gonna tell me my burger's good, so hopefully something's good here. You're probably thinking like, damn, should I let go of this thing?
Yeah.
But like, is there something that reminds you, or like an event or a person that you're like, no, I got this. Like I can do this, and tomorrow's gonna be a better day.
Yeah. I've a few things that, I obviously I don't have a company of, 100,000 employees. But a lot of the staff I have, this is their bread and butter.
Yeah.
They enjoy being here. And so at some point I feel like, can they get jobs anywhere else? Of course they can. But I feel a responsibility that, hey, I got to go in every day,
Yeah.
making sure that this company's functioning, because, however handful of people, their bread and butter depends on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just, for me, a lot of people say this, and I've heard this time and time again, oh, this guy is crazy. He worked too much, But, it comes, I feel like, at some point, from, especially my parents, my dad, I've learned that from him.
Yeah.
Like, he could just keep going.
No.
With a smile on his face, he could just keep on going. And he always told me, he's like, get the work done first.
Yeah.
You want to have fun, get the work done first, though.
Unreal.
And so that always comes into my mind. It's like, oh, okay. Sometimes I want to slip, and maybe we can do this tomorrow. And he's like, no, just get it done today.
Yeah.
Get it done today so you don't have to worry about it tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that stays in my mind.
That's awesome. It's not, let me just try and become a Bollywood star instead.
Yeah.
That doesn't come into your mind.
I'm waiting for one of the directors to come in, and maybe through this podcast you'll start doing it in India.
I don't know, man. That Instagram page is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
No, it's great. I think the story that you told me about being at that point after graduation, and debating what path you want to take, is interesting to me, because oftentimes we actually face that same decision every day. We just don't know it, right?
Yeah.
So right now you're running Buddha Burger, but who's to say Buddha Burger doesn't expand and become enormous? Who's to say that you bring on a team and become a Bollywood star, or other things? Like that's the beauty, in my opinion, about entrepreneurship, is that despite the highs and those, like your path is your own, right?
Yeah.
So what does that path look like for you now? If you're here, you got 2 locations, like is there global expansion on reach, or is it just kind of steady growth?
I want to change Austin's food scene.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, that was in my mind because when I came to Austin, just to have a look at, is this a market I want to be in?
Yeah.
And I said, and I hope I don't get backlash for this, but I felt like, man, they got really bad food here. I really felt that. I mean, coming from Toronto, we get like from Middle Eastern to Thai to Indian, burgers, everything. And it's not just like, oh, this is the one go-to place. It's like, well, which one? There's like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And so to come here, I felt like, wow, there's so much potential here. And it was like a kid in a candy shop. I said, well, I want to do a burger chain. I want to do a shawarma spot.
Yeah.
I want to do a sandwich place. And I want to do a bunch of different things.
Right.
And so that's what got me really excited about Austin, that there's so much potential.
Yeah.
Buddha Burger, I will grow it as much as I can. And I always have a thing, do I want to be the biggest? No, but I definitely want to be the best.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy, that if you're sitting down as with your friends, which burger place do we want to go to? Or if someone's in a corporate meeting in the restaurant industry and they're thinking, who do we look at? Who's got the best burger out there? And they want to do an analysis. In both of those situations, it should be our brands that come up.
Amazing.
So that's how I think, and that's how my approach is to be the best.
Yeah.
Listen, you don't have to be the biggest, because
For sure.
we know some of the biggest companies and they're not quality.
Right.
They're not taking care of customers. That's a big thing for us. We're very experience driven, customer forward first. So yeah, that's essentially what I want to do. I definitely want to do different brands and different concepts within Austin.
Yeah, Austin is crazy to me because you're right. There's just so much potential. And when we first moved, there was really good food.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, there wasn't the breadth that you have in a big city like Toronto.
Yes.
Right? So for example, like great shawarma, but there's probably like maybe 1 or 2 that are really good.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I'm not in that area today. I should have more options, right?
Yeah.
Like that is what Austin can become. It's so cool that you want to be a part of that, right? Because I think right now there's this massive growth of, like, recent addition of Michelin star restaurants, or like some being classified, recommendation. There's a huge like push for food in the city.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that is like your goal, like to grow not just your brand, but like the food culture. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
When you were figuring out whether to franchise or build your own brand, it's a no-brainer?
For this concept, yeah, it was a no-brainer. Yeah, it was a no-brainer. Because I've seen, within the corporate side, when we did burgers back there, that was ran corporately, and it's just a concept that we have. Just like we grind our meat in-house fresh every day, and I've got a 24-hour stamp on it.
Yeah.
To have a franchisee and tell them that, hey, you're throwing this away, your most expensive item that you purchase needs to be thrown away after 24 hours.
Yeah.
Are they going to try to push it and get another 12 hours out of it maybe?
Sure.
100% they are. Yeah. 100% they are.
Yeah.
And that's one of the learning aspects too. Did we do everything perfect at Buddha Burger? No, we didn't. Is this brand harder to scale right now? Yeah, definitely. Right now it has to be corporate.
Yeah.
For me to bring on franchisees, they would have to have quite a bit of experience. Generally, you'll find franchisees who need everything set up for them. They're fantastic workers. They're ready to do it, but they don't have the experience or the know-how. That's why they're doing a franchise.
Right.
Otherwise, they would do it themselves.
Yeah.
So for this brand, yeah, definitely. For the next ones, I've kept it in my mind that we need to dumb it down. We need to make it simple enough without compromising on what our core values are.
Yeah.
But make it simple enough that we can franchise.
Right.
To allow for that growth to happen.
Right. Yeah.
So
I think franchising is a awesome like, growth opportunity.
Yeah.
But if you want to have control over like the vision, the process, the quality of the meat, like,
Yeah.
I think you got to do it on your own.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying it now that, hey, we'll franchise, and even within Buddha Burger, at some point we're going to, and we do this right now with the 2, but as we get to 3, 4, 10, we'll have a central kitchen where we're making all the sauces, where all the meat's being produced, and we'll deliver it.
Yeah.
So it controls it as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I feel we can take that to another level if we do another brand.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's just about training the franchisees and them being physically there and not just coasting in the background, which a lot of people feel. Again, restaurant industry people say, "Oh, I want to open a restaurant." Well, I don't know what you probably don't know. Yeah, do you really want to do it?
Yeah. There's like so many jokes that I've heard about perpetual restaurant owners and people that are like gone back into the restaurant industry knowing how crazy and how wild it is. It seems like you've bit that bullet. You're like, oh, that's my game now.
That's exactly. It's funny. We're doing another reel that's gonna come out. I bet it's gonna be out by the time this airs. But it's with me. They're recording and they go. It's kind of like an inspiration. Oh, if you really like the restaurant industry, you really enjoy it, don't hit me up. You need to hit up a therapist because there's something seriously wrong with you if you really want to be doing these jobs.
Oh man!
So it's and you know what? It's funny because it's partly true.
Yeah,
it's partly true because the returns, and I always say this. I put it once beautifully, and the CEO I had worked with in Toronto, and he said, "You know what? That's it's beautifully said. This is the industry where you gotta love it because the amount of effort and work that you put in will never justify the returns that you get. Mm-hmm. The returns will never be justified. So you really got to enjoy it. You really got to. That is your other non-monetary reward.
Yeah.
Because if you put in this much effort into any other industry, you will probably do a lot better. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
And then people will say, hey, why are you still doing this then?
Yeah.
Why are you still doing this? And it's like, well, there's something beyond just earning the money.
Yeah.
That's the reason why you left the banking industry. There's either a sense of purpose or something else that you want to do. I enjoy serving people. I enjoy creating experiences. Mm-hmm. Just having that impact on the day. I'll give you a small example. And I teach this to my servers or my cashiers. And I'll tell them, I say, you ever been to a restaurant where the server or the cashier, you had a bad interaction with them? They're like, yeah. I said, that ruined your day.
Of course.
Absolutely. Okay. Now think of one where you've gone in and, and this is, sometimes whether it's a Starbucks or anywhere, and there's that one individual who's like, is either funny or really energetic and puts a smile on your face.
Yeah.
And that actually makes a good impact on your day. It makes you feel good.
Yeah.
I said, that's actually powerful, and that's the power you have to impact somebody's day. And that's huge. That to me is huge. And that alone is so rewarding being in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
And beyond that, hey, listen, I mean, if you know what you're doing, you got your technicals down. Like that's something in operations, I specialize in operations. Yeah, it's still good. It's still good. So it's not as people say, oh, we're not making money. Well, you're probably not operating it properly.
Right.
To be very honest, you're really not operating properly. And that's not just small people. That's big brands as well. I can say this because the CEO sold that company now.
Okay.
But Mucho Burrito is that way.
Oh man. Yeah.
They always say, oh, your food cost should be 31, 32%. But in reality, the actual food cost was hitting 37%.
Right.
And it said, hey, you as that big of a company, you guys should have figured this out a long time ago. You can't depend on volume. Mm-hmm. And say, oh, you'll make that money through the volume. No, get your numbers. Your food cost needs to be in line. Your labor needs to be in line.
Right.
Your operations will dictate all of those things. Mm-hmm. So those are very important aspects.
It's cool to see you have like the technical aspect of it too.
Yeah.
Because I do think that when people decide to jump into entrepreneurship, the idea is great and the passion is great, but having that know-how up front
Yeah.
also super important.
Right.
Yes, you'll figure it out along the way, and yes, it'll come with time. But so many people that I've spoke to have said that before we've gone full throttle on whatever idea, whatever business it is, we took time to learn it. And it sounds like to me in your scenario, when you were working for Mucho Burrito or other brands in corporate, that was your like learning opportunity. Now you're coming to the industry with this technical knowledge about what boot costs should look like, how the industry, how the org should be structured, how do you build properly. And it's not necessarily because you've learned the right way, every single time. It's because you probably learned it multiple different ways, like what not to do, what way not to manage people. I do think that time for you was like the learning time before you were like, I'm going to jump into this and do it my own.
Oh, 100%. When I graduated from business school, I'd say the average salary everyone was starting off with, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, we were there is between, I'd say about 60 to 80 was that range.
Yeah.
I joined the company 36,000.
Yeah.
That's what I did, and that's what he had told me. He said, I can't pay you a lot. This is what we can afford right now.
Right.
That's all I said. You pay me minimum wage. And that was my honest response to him. I said, you can pay me minimum wage.
Yeah.
I really don't care. The only thing I said, I have a condition is, do not stick me in one spot. I want to learn everything, whether it's marketing, whether it's construction, whether it's everything. And I never said no. I never said no. The construction person said, hey, can you help me with this? Absolutely. Commissary person at, hey, we're up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. We're cutting meat. We're doing a new testing. Do you want to be here? Absolutely. I'll be there.
No way.
So yeah, I would wake up every day. I feel like that was a fun part. I never thought about what's going to happen a year from now or what. I was just excited every day to go in and learn.
Yeah.
And now, even when I look back at it, I said, even I was really fortunate to have the chefs I got to work with.
Yeah.
They really taught me a lot, on the corporate side as well. You also learn from, you got to be observant. You learn from the people you say, oh, yeah, this person's not doing a good job. Okay, well, why are they not doing a good job? You learn from everybody.
For sure. Well, what about the concept of like mentorship? I feel like the CEO and others that you worked with kind of became, whether it's formal or non-formal mentors for you. I think that's, for me, been super helpful in my career. I'm assuming the same for you.
Yeah, I'd say, so I go back as far as like what shaped me as a person.
Yeah.
In high school, I was very fortunate to have two really good economics teacher and a math teacher. And people don't realize how important your teachers are. And I feel like in North America, they take it very lightly. The respect is not given to teachers here. And I feel like it should. It shapes the future of how the country will be run. So those two high school teachers, always, there wasn't even a university teacher that I felt that way. Those two shaped that way. In the kitchens, there's Chef Rego, really shaped me who I am in the kitchen. Alex, the CEO there at Crave It. There's a bunch of different leadership aspects, but I'd say, a majority of, and it was just observe. It wasn't even I'd go and bother them with questions.
Right.
It's just observing, watching them, and knowing that, okay, they're doing this, they're doing that. And then I would think about certain things as well. There's a lot of things I disagreed with at the time, being young, and I'd say, oh no, he's not doing it the right way. That's the young person. I haven't done anything in my life, and I'm pointing at a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. Well, he's not doing it the right way. And today I look back and I said, that's why he did that.
Yeah.
It makes sense now, because I would have done the same thing. And today, if you ask me, I would do the same thing.
It's cool to hear you say that, because I'm sure somewhere out there, whether it's in your kitchens, whether it's someone you've interacted with, is probably looking at you that same way now.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Right?
100%.
And it's so important, whether it's formally or informally, to keep that going.
Yes.
Because I don't think like taking all that experience or learning from somebody and not giving to somebody is the right thing to do. Like, I think you have to give it to somebody else and pass the torch, like you were saying, whether it's in the restaurant industry, any industry, even in life, right? You have to pass it down. Do you think you're doing that right now?
I think I do too much of that. I feel like I gotta back off a bit.
Give me advice to everybody.
Exactly. It's like sometimes it's like, hey, just keep quiet. Don't. Because I always feel like everyone could do better. Everyone could go beyond the potential that they think of. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
And then now think about that. That's throughout everybody I meet. Now, if you're part of my team, it's like, oh man, now I really got to make sure that, hey, you guys, and the worst thing to me that drives me nuts is seeing somebody with potential and for them not to put in that effort to get there. And I'm going, wow, what a waste of talent.
Yeah.
But I've grown to realize that, hey, some people just, they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
They don't. And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I've accepted that. That's totally fine. I do. That's one thing I've also learned, I'd say in the last year or so. You giving advice was great. But you shouldn't because each individual is different.
Mm-hmm.
Your advice worked for you. Those were your experiences. Another individual has other experiences. So unless it's asked for, it's like, well, is my advice actually going to help you?
Mm-hmm.
It may not.
Yeah.
And if someone really wants the advice, they will ask you for it.
Sure.
So that's how I feel. In terms of teaching within, people who actually want to be, the people within my company that want to grow, I will take the effort to teach them because they will come to me and they're actually learning. I'll name drop one of the trending people. There's people who love him and people who don't really love him. Jordan Peterson. One of the things he says is, if you're at a place where you're talking and people are not listening, stop talking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a simple thing.
Yeah.
But
it applies every day.
It applies every day.
All right. So since you have the opportunity to talk and give advice, if there's somebody who was like me very recently and they were sitting in a corporate job, they knew what they potentially could do, and they're just trying to make that decision to jump, right? Or decide whether or not it's worth it in their life. What would you say to someone in that scenario?
So the first thing I'd say is the most important thing I'd say is, and you need to know this before you make any decision, know what you want. And people think that, oh yeah, I know what I want. No. You actually sit down and you need to understand what it is that you actually want, because I feel like that's what separates successful people from unsuccessful people. They know exactly what it is they want. And that leads to the second part. Stay focused and stay disciplined. Mm-hmm. That leads, for me, is to the third part is don't give up. Mm-hmm. And it's not just, oh yeah, I'm not giving up. No. There are times where, like I told you, there will be like, you're questioning. And those times will come 100%. And you will actually question that, hey, yeah, I know I shouldn't give up, but man, I really don't understand. And like tattoo it on your hands and say, don't give up. Because you make a commitment, stick to it. Yeah. Stick to it. That's what will differentiate you. Maybe it will take you a little longer because you made more mistakes along the line. So what? One of the most successful financial people, his thing was, the biggest mistake I made was buying Berkshire Hathaway. That's what he says. He said, had I opened my own company from scratch, it would have taken me less time to get to where I am today. And this is, at one point, he's the richest man, and he's the financial guru. They call him the Oracle of Omaha. Yeah. So if he's saying that, man, you got to make sure that you're not giving up.
For sure. So thanks so much for being on. I really appreciate the time. Thank you, everyone who is joining on this journey and watching Behind the Business. My name is Faheem Savja. That's Raaziq Bhimani. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you in our next episode.
Thank you for joining us on Behind the Business. I hope today's story left you a little inspired and maybe one step closer to your own entrepreneurial dreams. Behind every business, there's a person with a vision and a story worth telling. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend who may need a little inspiration too. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep building, and keep listening. This is Faheem Sabja, signing off from Behind the Business.